Actually, today is my anniversary with the city of Leesburg. So 8 years. And I think actually today marks my 9th chamber breakfast, right? So one of the first things out of the box was when I came to Leesburg, Sandy yelled at me and said, "You got to come speak to the chamber." I was like, "I just got here." Like, "You have to." "Okay, I'm here." So there you go. So today is 9. I'm really proud to report, though, I think the state of the city is extremely strong. Now, having said that, I don't know, I need to mention this and didn't know where to put it in the State of the Union, but I felt like it was important, so right out of the box. Probably the biggest disappointment of the year was the really sudden and tragic loss of Fred Morrison. And I don't think I could speak today without tipping my cap to Fred. Now, Fred had worked for the city for 40 years. Here I was just bragging on 8. But beyond what he did for us as a city attorney, and I think he's one of the few that's very trustworthy. When you talked to Fred, you felt comfortable. You felt like he was giving you good counsel without any strings attached. And he did that to everybody he talked to. So beyond that, Fred was extremely important in our community. He's such a leader, and he'll be dearly missed. And it's a big loss for the city and the community. So I felt like we needed to talk about Fred a little bit this morning. In any case, now that this makes my 9th speech, I've been called the Grinch. I've also I only talk about boring stuff and not fun stuff. But the boring stuff is really the iron share of what we do. For example, in the budget process, we have a $170 million budget, and one line in that book that's literally this thick is $50 million. And if the sun comes out and a cloud stays 30 minutes too long, well, that $50 million number can change by $2 or $3 million. And look at Brad over there is staring me down. Well, that line's the power supply number. But the point I'm trying to get to is we hear all these numbers, we hear talking, we hear the federal government talk about stuff, and really it comes down to discretionary versus non-discretionary. And I think you feel that in probably your businesses, the stuff you gotta pay, and then what's available to do the fun stuff. So we'll spend hours talking about what color an atrium should be, or whether there should be a parapet wall there, or whether we should put grass or flowers in a median. But when it comes to a $50 million expense, and Brad and I will yell at each other trying to predict when that sun will come out, which will change that number by, no, you guys got it, that's good. Let's go talk about the fun stuff. So I divided my speech up to not fun and fun. And I'm going to give you the not fun stuff first. That way we can end on fun. I thought Sandy'd appreciate that. So again, the city is in a very good spot. I think this fiscal year marks probably the 3rd year that we have seen assessed values increase over 5%. The first few years, we were a little bit negative and very slow. This year, we really actually caught up with the county. I think we're the 2nd grower versus Groveland and Lake, and that number is going to increase probably in the next couple of years as we see the villages come online. Our financials remain great. Our taxes have been down. And so from a financial standpoint, the city is really in a good position to do fun stuff. But there's more boring stuff. Growth has obviously been an issue, whether, growth, no growth, those type of issues. But we've seen the big uptick in residential growth. We've seen some commercial redevelopment. So those growth issues continue to push our envelope. I think we'll see that more, especially in the South Corridor. Dan will attest to that over in Planning and Zoning, and Ann will. Where's Ann in the Building Department? Those two are probably the doing the dog chasing the tail act the most in the city. Ann, I think in March, we hit the most inspections that we've hit probably since the peak, and I think that number was like 300 in a month. So that number's actually continued to go up and stayed steady. So we're holding that peak now for over 9 months. Dan is beside himself with the subdivision plans he pulls. And the villages, we've talked about the villages a lot and the partnership we did with the villages. That partnership looks like it's going to kick off. So all those houses that we talked about and the 470 property, we're looking like those hammers are going to start swinging, or rather plugging in the nail guns these days, this summer. So that's going to be huge, and so we'll see that growth continue in those assessed values. To keep up with that, two big things, again, not very fun, but remiss in not saying it, is on the electric side. I think next month we're getting in our 4th transformer. About a year ago now, the city carved out $4 million to replace 4 transformers. Those are really important, so when these lights you switch at home or at your business or here at the city is really reliant on making sure that our infrastructure is up to speed. And again, that's one of those things we spend a lot of time thinking and planning and losing sleep over, so you guys don't have to. And so I don't know how else to say that, but it's really important and it's really boring, right? Who cares about transformers? Brad does. Also, on the other side of the equation, we also take care of your wastewater, so everybody expects to go to the bathroom. And then after that, who cares? Well, Cliff takes care of that. And another one of the big projects that we did is this week, we did the punch list on the renovation project for the Turnpike sewer plant. That was actually a $25 million project that we quietly got done very quickly. Actually, that one on time and about $2 million under budget. So we're extremely proud of that. And those are those bone infrastructure things that now we can hang all the fun stuff on. And so as we finish up that project this week, we're actually turning around, and because of those growth issues that Dan and Ann is working on, we're going to need to expand that plant rather quickly. And when we endeavored to do the Villages project about 3.5, 4 years ago now, we didn't know where the growth was going to be. So we took an incremental step where it was like, okay, we're going to get the villages in. That's going to help. That we did some scenarios. I won't talk about all that stuff like with the gas again. But we knew that was coming, but we didn't know what the growth was going to be behind it. So we did that incremental step at the Turnpike plant and spent $25 million. So now as that $25th million or $23rd million got spent, now we're looking at flow levels and thinking, uh-oh, we need to expand the plant. So again, those growth issues. So we'll actually be rolling here in the next few weeks into a plant expansion, which is $30 million. Commissioner Berry's nodding, so he knows it's coming. So that's a good thing. So those are significant issues. And then to finish off the boring stuff, last year when I stood up here, we spent a little bit of time talking about COVID. I did not think 365 days later we'd be talking about COVID again. But 20 and 21 seem a little similar, so I don't know, you had that flipper, so hopefully we're flipping it now because 22 is breakfast year, so we get a new start and we won't have to talk about COVID anymore. But the COVID again had an impact with us. The city received about $11.8 million in the American Recovery Act. The commission spent some time figuring out how we were going to split up that pie. And I think we really came up with a good plan on injecting our economy and on helping some of our bones infrastructure issues, which some of that money was supposed to go towards. So the sewer plant that we just talked about at Turnpike, about $6 million would be spent to help defray some of those expansion costs. We spent $2.5 million on Pine Street. I put that in a fun category, so I'm going to come back and talk about that in a little bit. And then we helped the Boys and Girls Club, so that's a fun project too, to talk about that in a little bit. But then we also took some money from that to help our not-for-profits, to help those organizations go. So again, COVID's impacting us, really changing our lives. 22, next year, we're not talking about it because it's done. So with that, that's all the boring stuff. And now we'll go into the fun accomplishments. So right on that heels, we just mentioned the Boys and Girls Club. We will be cutting the ribbon on the Teen Center here in about a month. The Teen Center project is the addition onto the gymnasium where we can help youth in our community, and that is a significant accomplishment. We have talked about a teen center concept for some time now, and in a couple of months it'll be brought to fruition, so really excited. Travis has been helping us out with that project. He's been working with Boys and Girls Club and getting that thing done. At 10, so as soon as we're done here, we will be cutting the ribbon on the Leesburg Aquatic Facility. There's a couple who besides the commission, who I remiss if I don't mention. Mark Roberts is one. What are you going to do, Minner, about the pool? I can hear it now. What are you going to do? Sandy Moore. Al, what do you mean Leesburg's not going to have a pool? Yes, ma'am, we are. Phil Braun, another advocate for the pool. So I know there's other folks, but in addition to the commission, but today at 10, cutting the ribbon on the aquatic facility. All in the aquatic facility, $6.5 million paid in cash, just like this facility. That's the part, that back to boring, Al, but that's the fun part that gets me excited, because when we shift around a bunch of financial blocks about 5 years ago, we put together that war chest so we could make improvements like this building in the pool. The aquatic facility, though, is going to be really cool. Slides, new bathhouse, a competition pool. It's really going to, I think, put Leesburg on the map for hosting more events. Help us out, too, with that lakefront image and our slogan, which a lot of our fun projects are centered towards. So with that, we'll also leak over and talk about Pine Street, because the location was, I think, a really good one, which we finally found, you know, and where do we locate the pool? Is it here in Venetian Center? I think, if I remember correctly, I'm standing about where the diving board was in the old Venetian Gardens pool. So do we put it at Venetian Gardens? Where do we put the pool? And when we finally came up with the Pine Street concept, it was, I think, so universal in that it knocked out so many issues. A good location for everybody in town, no matter which side of town you lived on. And then it also helped us to start looking at what we do for Pine Street and trying to reinvigorate and re-nourish Pine Street, because we have our downtown, but we also have Pine Street, which is another historic business area that we're looking at reinvesting in. So the pool kicked that off. And then the other side of Pine Street is a hospital. And so from the aquatic center to the hospital, we've got a strip of road there that we're already in the process of redesigning to make that feel more like downtown, get more people on Pine Street, which helps downtown, which gets us to Venetian Gardens, which helps Leesburg, and again, working towards that lakefront city slogan type of feel. So that's starting. And then one more thing on Venetian Gardens. So we started Venetian Gardens with phase 1, which was the Roger Park, about 3-4 years ago. And then we slowly worked over. So today, if you guys look out that window, you see the restaurant. It started. That's really phase 4, the big public-private partnership. And we talk a lot about, we go to these economic development summits and what can government do for you, and that new acronym, the trifecta P, public-private partnership. Every time I see 3 Ps, what's that? Oh, public-private partnership. They're a double-edged sword. They can be. They're really good when you get it right, and they're really bad when you get it wrong. So I think they're always something we need to look at. But this public-private partnership with the restaurant is a really cool one. And I think it's really going to help the city in the long run. So hopefully in July, we'll be cutting the ribbon there on the restaurant at Ski Beach. And then finally, I'll leave this concept and then open it with some questions that you may have. And maybe it was a smaller thing, and it wasn't a big allocation, kind of that fun stuff versus not fun stuff. But last week, the commission, actually this week on Monday, the commission allocated $1 million towards the Downtown Building Redevelopment Grant. Again, about 1.5 years ago, we completed and we did the downtown master plan, which helped us with where we were going to put some investments in downtown and some different things as we started to open up different stuff, because our downtown is so important to Leesburg. And one of the issues that we do have downtown is we have these cool, historic, 2-story buildings that are underutilized. And so the city felt like to try to get the pump primed to get these buildings redeveloped, there's government regulation that increases costs. And those are those life safety issues. You know, everybody you never think about it, but they're a big deal when you renovate and do construction projects. Putting in sprinkler systems, upgrading your utility service, making sure your water and sewer lines are all good. Well, in these old buildings, those are significant numbers. So the city carved out $1 million and allocated about $250,000 per grant to focus on. We've got about 10 multi-use, multi-story buildings downtown. So we unveiled that program on Monday. Hopefully that one is really going to get utilized. Hopefully we spend that money quick and we see these buildings downtown start to get renovated. I'm going to say probably in the last 90 days, we've seen more activity and more tire kicking on those buildings being purchased and redeveloped and that kind of thing. So hopefully this grant helps that along and really gets that ball moving. So with that, I know there was much more that happened in 21, but those are probably all the big issues, both fun and not so fun. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. None. Well, I'm going to escape while the getting's good. And as always, it's always a pleasure to come before and report on the status of the greatest city in Lake County in Florida, the city of Leesburg.